down the field. Happy tossing dimes, cup $1 million deal. Fantasy football, better know it's real. Tune into the podcast, tell us how you feel. We be going live, best believe we talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football from Up North podcast. I'm your host, Clayton, for our week 3 recap show for the night. Most likely I'm going to be doing these things solo, so hopefully you can put up with me for about 25-30 minutes while I break down these games. Just going to touch on some quick injuries here, some key injuries at that. Biggest ones at the running back positions. We saw Dalvin Cook leave with a shoulder injury, was ruled out. Dislocated shoulders, what the outcome was from it. There's a chance he could play next week against the Saints, but he's going to have to wear a harness. So we'll have to see what happens there. Something to monitor. Alexander Mattison obviously is going to be a must add this week on the waiver wire. Another running back that was banged up was David Montgomery, knee/ankle. He left in the first quarter, did not return. We saw Khalil Herbert go absolutely ballistic in this game. So look for him. He's going to be most likely your top waiver ad for the week. And outside of that, not too many other big injuries. I mean, Mac Jones, if you were counting on him, he did leave with a high ankle sprain. He most likely is going to miss some time. Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas both left their game against Carolina and did not return. So especially with the fact that Michael Thomas and his foot, that's not a good sign at all. So keep an eye on that throughout the week. We'll keep you guys kind of up to date with these injuries moving forward. Garrett Wilson exited with a rib injury, but he did return, so nothing too scary there. But it was, again, couple rookie wideouts that kind of took stage today and broke out. So we'll touch on that. But for the first game, we're going to talk about Detroit Lions at the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota took this one 28-24. Detroit continues to look like a very, competitive team week to week. They keep putting up points fantasy wise. So, I mean, that's what we're here for. So on the Detroit side of the ball, shocking to me was Jamal Williams led this backfield, 20 rushes for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns. I do think is fact that, I think they're being a little bit cautious with Swift still, although he came back, but I mean, he was banged up at the beginning of the week, and I think this was a game plan all along. I think they were just going to run him out there. And I mean, play him limited snaps and kind of go from there. Another thing that was interesting was how this receiving core kind of shook up today. According to PFF, it was DJ Chark and Josh Reynolds who, played the most snaps over Amon St. Brown. And it was Josh Reynolds that led this team in targets, followed by St. Brown and then DJ Chark. But the biggest thing was we saw, Josh Reynolds 6 for 96 on 10 targets, no scores. I mean, Amon St. Brown just continues to be a beast, 6 for 73, 9 targets. But, being their number one, he was probably getting taken. I mean, they probably were taking him out of the place anyway, so somebody had to step up in this passing game. So I wouldn't worry too much about that because, I mean, St. Brown's still producing. Doesn't matter what's happening. So week to week, he's the man. Minnesota side of the ball, Kirk Cousins kind of came back to life a little bit, 260, 2 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook, like we mentioned earlier, I mean, did play this game 17 for 96. I was having a good game, 1 touchdown. Before he was injured, Alexander Mattison came and didn't really do too much for this one here. KJ Osborne, 5 for 73 and a touch on 8 targets, and same with Adam Thielen. It was 6 for 61 and 1. This shocked me. Justin Jefferson, 3 for 14. So, Justin Jefferson was out there for the most snaps, most routes run. Only targeted 5 times, but obviously blanketed by coverage. So that's just something you're going to see week to week. Irv Smith continues to kind of produce there. He had another 6 targets in this one. He's slowly starting to creep into that tight end 2 territory every week. And not too much else to really talk about in this game. KJ Osborne did have a great game though. So I mean, that's just something to kind of look out for. He's their third receiver no matter what. So the next game we're going to talk about, like I said, not too much else to really talk about as far as this game goes. Baltimore, New England. Baltimore just continues to absolutely dominate teams. Like Lamar Jackson is just another beast in itself. I can't say enough about him. If you have him on your fantasy rosters, you are loving life as far as I'm concerned. So we'll touch again on the running back position. J.K. Dobbins back in for this game. Didn't do too much with his touches. 7 for 23, so not much, but they're going to ease him into it. Like I said, he hasn't played a game in over a year, so it was nice to see him back on the field. Lamar Jackson led this team in rushes as usual, 11 for 107. Through the air, 218, 4 touchdowns. 2 of those touchdowns were to 13 targets for Mark Andrews this week, 8 for 89. Biggest takeaway for me in this one is the fact that, I mean, Mark Andrews continues to could finish as a tight end 1 this year. But as far as, snap counts and everything goes, Mark Andrews is out there for 54 snaps. He's on the field all the time. And anytime he's on the field, he's going to be getting the ball. So 13 targets on the day. He's going to continue to dominate week to week. And then as far as the other receivers, Bateman, after his breakout, he was only 2 for 59. On 4 targets, not much else going on in that receiving game. So it was basically Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews show in this one. Now on the New England side, mentioned earlier, Mac Jones left this game. Mac Jones was very efficient today, 22 of 32 for 321. 3 picks, unfortunately, but it's Baltimore's D. Baltimore's D has been dynamite. Now, split backfield. We talked about this earlier as well. Split backfield with these 2 running backs, Stevenson and Harris, both rushed for Stevenson was had 12 carries, and Damian Harris had 11. The biggest thing was the amount of snaps that Stevenson played. Stevenson did outsnap Harris 41-25. So he's slowly starting to be it's still a running back by committee, but I do think that we're starting to see, the handing of the torch over to Stevenson. And depending on what's going to happen with Mac Jones now, I mean, they might be relying on this run game a little bit more with Brian Hoyer behind there. But we saw, if those of you didn't listen to our live show this morning, it was our other. Well, I guess he's considered a co-host now. Riley had made the call earlier this morning that it was going to be a Devontae Parker day, and it definitely was. 5 receptions, blew up for 5 receptions for 156 yards. So that's they went and traded for him. They got him. He's been so quiet since since they got him, but today 10 targets, 5 catches for 156. That's with no Jacoby Myers out. He most likely is going to be out for probably another couple weeks. So I know he said he was close to going, but I think now, depending on what's going to happen at the quarterback position, I do think that Parker is going to be a vocal point of this passing offense. So next game we'll go to is the Saints and Carolina. We mentioned this earlier about these rookies breaking out. And we saw that again today with Chris Olave of the Saints. 9 receptions for 147 yards, 53 snaps played, 39 routes run, 12 targets on the day. So led the team in targets. Mind you, we did talk about it earlier too. Both Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry both left this game. So that could be, well, to me, Olave is going to be he's basically moves into their wide receiver 1 position. If these injuries are long-term, especially with Thomas and Landry, and most likely they're going to be absent for a few weeks. So Chris Olave is going to be a guy, if he is on waivers, you're going to want to go get him. But it was nice to see him finally break out as well. And then when it came to the running back position for the Saints, not too much happening on the ground. Kamara was back in this one, 15 for 61. Didn't really do too much. But to be honest, he didn't really hear. It was mostly about Chris Olave and both Traquan Smith as well. Traquan Smith went 4 for 105 on 5 targets. So Winston coming into this game, he was banged up, continues to play with fractured bones in his back. 25-41 for 353 and 1 passing touchdown. So he's producing. If he has weapons to produce, he's doing what he did in Tampa Bay, right? As long as he's got guys to throw the ball to, he's going to get them the ball. So, I mean, Jameis Winston could be a streaming option week to week, depending on matchup. I mean, but I like him a lot more than, guys like Baker Mayfield. And it's guys like this that are going to be on waivers. So, and especially if you're, continue to get injuries with the bye weeks coming closer, you kind of got to look ahead at that as well. But Carolina side of the ball, Baker Mayfield just sucks. That's standard. Christian McCaffrey, 25 for 108 this year, or in this game. But Laviska Shenault finally stepped up, after being traded to Carolina. They kind of used him 2 for 90 and 1 touchdown, like I mentioned. The thing, though, is he only played 11 snaps in this game. So he's still not being considered one of those gadget players per se, like he was being used in Jacksonville. He's not playing very much, but when he's on the field, they might have a few scripted plays for him. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson led this team in snaps, but only 5 targets and 4 targets respectively for both of them. It was kind of a quiet day all around for this offense, and we're going to probably see this more than not, to be honest with you. I mean, for those of you that started DJ Moore, me being one of them, you got 1 for 2 out of him today. He rushed the ball twice for 13 yards. So nothing out of him. Robbie Anderson continues to, after that first big week he's been very quiet. This team is hurting with Baker Mayfield behind center, in my opinion. It'd be, at least when Sam Darnold was with this offense, it was moving. This is a very boring offense right now outside of Christian McCaffrey. So something you kind of got to start looking at right now with DJ Moore. You might have to, consider benching him until you see something happening. If there's a change at quarterback, or if he starts producing a little bit more. But something's got to change here, because as of right now, Carolina just sucks. So next game we're going to discuss is my Houston Texans. Good game all around, I think. But like we mentioned before, we've got to talk about guys that broke out today. Rookie running back, we'll start on the Texans side. Dameon Pierce, 20 carries for 80 yards, touchdown, 2 receptions for 21. So over 100 are all-purpose yards. So not bad for the guy, considering that's what they were talking about going into this game. He did out-snap Rex Burkhead in this one, 35-24. Burkhead's still finding it on the field. I do feel as though he is turning in. He's our basically third down back, and that's what he's going to continue to be, because he's like probably one of the best at it. So as far as the receivers go, on the other hand, Mills was kind of quiet in this one, 245, 1 passing touchdown. It was Chris Moore and Nico Collins that led this team, but he spread it around. Mills spread around pretty good. Cook still led this team in targets at 7. Didn't do too much with them. So just one of those games. I think it was, probably not the most exciting game, but the Texans are slowly, producing some fantasy talent. Dameon Pierce is going to be one of those guys where you're going to roll him out there, because I think the Texans are high on him. And I mentioned that to you guys earlier during the draft process as well. I talked about how the Texans don't usually invest in that position. Usually a lot of the guys that they do have back there are free agents, hence like an Arian Foster and stuff like that. But Dameon Pierce could be a 3-down workhorse back when given the opportunity. He's 1 injury away from being that, but 20 carries for 80 yards. The Texans have clearly showed that he's going to be the guy moving forward. On the Chicago Bears side of the ball, I was, pumping my fist for Fields all week, and that blew up in my face. Fields is not startable, in my opinion. I mean, only guy you're going to want on this offense now, with David Montgomery most likely going to be out, is going to be Khalil Herbert. Like I said, he blew up for 157 yards, also and had 2 touchdowns. Also caught a couple balls out of the backfield for 12 yards. So, I mean, did you know that since in David Montgomery's career in Chicago, he's yet to rush for 150 yards, and we just saw Herbert do that in his first game as basically as the first game as a lead back. So good on him. He's should be your top waiver ad this week. He's available, and I bet you over 80% of leagues. I was in this passing game, just until Fields takes that next step, I'm not trusting anybody in this offense outside of, Khalil Herbert moving forward. I can't trust Darnell Mooney. In my opinion, I'm dropping Mooney. Cole Kmet, there's a lot of hype in him coming into preseason. He's done absolutely nothing. So, this Chicago team is not very good outside of their running game right now. So moving forward, none of those guys are startable, and I definitely won't be discussing them at all. So KC and Indy took this game. I bet you that screwed a ton of guys in the betting department, because who would have thunk that, the Indianapolis Colts that got shit kicked last week would take down KC. So they were at home, mind you, but still doesn't matter. The Colts were okay. I called a little bounce back game from Matt Ryan in this one. He was all right. 27 for 37, 222, 2 touchdowns. And, Michael Pittman, welcome back. We mentioned that earlier. I said he was going to be good. As long as Michael Pittman was back, Michael Pittman shows back up, led team in targets with 9, caught 8 balls for 72. No score, but obviously Pittman is going to be the one bright spot on this receiving core. It was rookie tight end Jelani Woods, though, that caught both of the touchdowns from Matt Ryan this week. But I'm not going to buy into that. I'm not going to chase that too much, because we saw, as far as tight ends go, Jelani Woods played the least amount of snaps. But secret stash might be, Kylan Granson continues to kind of play a little bit more and more over Mo Alie-Cox. Mo Alie-Cox did lead in snaps, but when it comes to stats wise, it just kind of seems that Granson's getting some looks week to week. So they drafted him last year, but watch out for Jelani Woods. He's going to slowly start to be, getting on the field a little bit more week to week. So now for KC, we saw Mahomes 262, 1 passing touchdown, and nothing happening in this rushing game. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but when we kind of look and break down the snaps for these guys, you had McKinnon with 33, Clyde Hilaire with 25. So is this going to be considered a running back by committee? Not too sure, but we still are seeing Clyde with the catches out of the backfield. And he did he had 5 catches for 39 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster finally stepped up in this one on 8 targets. Both him and Kelsey, 8 targets each. Schuster 5 for 89, and it was Kelsey 4 for 58 for one score. So I'm not sure. I still think that if teams shut down the run, they need to establish a run game in order to succeed in this offense, I think, moving forward. Mahomes can't do it all by himself. He's going to somehow need to, they're going to somehow need to get these running backs more involved week to week. And to me, I think that probably changes next week. I'm not buying too much into this game, but I mean, especially the fact Mecole Hardman only 1 target on the day, that's unacceptable. I mean, you need to be spreading that ball around a lot more. And even the fact is that if you look at if you snap count for all these receivers, they're pretty much they were split. They were 49, 44, 43. So Scantling 49 snaps, Schuster 44, and then Mecole Hardman 43. And Mecole Hardman had 1 target. So I mean, got to do a little bit more, I think, with these guys. And I think, Kansas City is bound to bounce back. It's Kansas City. So Philadelphia Eagles and the Commanders. This game I thought was going to be a Wentz. I thought this game was going to be actually a really good game. Just the fact it's kind of a Wentz revenge game. But that kind of didn't really turn into how we expected it to. Jalen Hurts continues just to absolutely put on a show in this league right now. He's scary to watch. I mean, the 340 yards today, 3 passing touchdowns, had another 20 yards rushing on the ground. And just week to week, I think Hurts is going to be considered to be a guy that's going to be able to put up the same similar kind of numbers to Lamar, just in a shittier offense. I think the way that the Eagles were running today with Devonta Smith leading this team in snaps, he blew up today. AJ Brown continues to be one of those favorite targets for Hurts. Devonta Smith went 8 for 169 and 1 touchdown on 12 targets, while AJ Brown was 5 for 85 and a score on 10. It was kind of nice to see Devonta Smith kind of step up finally after being drafted so high last year and kind of being quiet the rest of the year, or since the start of the year. But look for him to continue to be productive in this offense. Miles Sanders again led this team in rushes, 15 for 46. Had one target, did nothing with it. But on Washington side of the ball, this Philly defense just absolutely demolished the Commanders. So Wentz 211, no passing touchdowns, and this whole offense came back to reality. It was Terry McLaurin actually finally went over 100 yards on the year, 6 for 102, 9 targets. Still, Curtis Samuel still continues to lead this team in targets week to week. He went 7 for 48 on 10 targets. Dotson, on the other hand, didn't do much with his 8 targets at all, 2 for 10. So he had a quiet day. Antonio Gibson, 12 for 38. Not great. He did have his touchdown today, but you guys got to watch out now. During the warm-up, we saw Brian Robinson actually starting to run some routes. So it's just going to be a matter of time before Robinson steps into this backfield and I think runs away with this job. So over the next game, we got the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, a game that I thought would be an absolute shootout, and it turned out wasn't quite a shootout at all. 21-19, really low scoring considering these two offenses last week went crazy. So on the Buffalo side, we'll start there. Welcome back to Gabriel Davis. Played again in this game after sitting last week. Did lead this team in snaps, only did 3 for 37 on 6 targets. Devin Singletary, we saw some action out of him. I said to bench all these running backs in this game. Well, that kind of blew up in my face, and I'm the first to admit that. Devin Singletary, 11 targets on the day, 9 catches for 78 yards in the score. Stephon Diggs, 7 for 74. I'm not too sure what to think about Isaiah McKenzie because targeted 9 times, 7 for 76 and 1 score, but played the least amount of snaps out of all of these guys. But we did notice that when they were on the field, they ran a lot of 3 wide receiver sets. Gabriel Davis, like I said, led this team with 87 snaps, followed by Diggs and then McKenzie. But there was a lot of time we did see both McKenzie and Crowder on the field. So I'm not too sure I'm going to buy into Isaiah McKenzie yet. I kind of want to see one more game, one more productive game out of him. But now with Jake Kumerow banged up as well. I mean, he left in the first quarter. It's, could see Isaiah McKenzie step up a little bit more week to week. And then inside of this backfield, it was Devin Singletary's gig in this one. But the fact the game was so close, they couldn't really rely on the running game too much. So I guess in the sense I wasn't too far off when I said to not start any of these guys because both these run defenses were phenomenal. But Devin Singletary did his damage through the air. I would say that nothing major in this one. Josh Allen led this team in rushes, 47 yards to go with his 400 yards passing and 2 passing touchdowns. And then it was the same I mentioned earlier with Miami's backfield too. I mean, Chase Edmonds, it was Mostert that led this team in carries. Didn't do much with them. They couldn't do anything on the ground there. I think they had 50 yards rushing on the day. Tyreek Hill, 2 for 33. Buffalo did a great job taking him away. We did know that this passing defense was pretty good, but we kind of expected a few more points being scored. But Jalen Waddle, 4 for 102. Both Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill are must starts week to week. And I'm still not quite sure what we're doing with this backfield. But if I had to, if I had to look at the snap counts in this game, Mostert did lead this one with 24. So I guess if you have to look at it that way, I guess it would be Mostert. But Chase Edmonds continues to get work out of that backfield, on passing down. So just something to look forward to, which we already knew. 6 carries, 21 yards, 1 reception for 6. So thought we'd be able to spend a little bit more time on this game, but not really much else to really discuss. Cincinnati and the New York Jets, the Bengals finally got a win on the year. We didn't think it was going to be that hard, considering they did make it to the Super Bowl last year. But football's a funny thing. So it was a Tyler Boyd game, though. 4 receptions for 105 yards, 1 touchdown. Basically, him and Higgins continue to split snap counts, and Tyler Boyd's just kind of a sneaky flex play. I think every week he continues to. They're able to sustain 3 wide receivers on this team with the amount that Burrow does throw the ball. Threw it 36 times today for 275, 3 scores, like I mentioned. Tyler Boyd, 4 for 105, followed by Higgins and then Chase. Chase led the team in targets, but it was Tyler Boyd that led the team in receiving yards. So just something to move forward. It's always been the same kind of thing with this offense. There's Boyd, Higgins, Chase. Outside of that, not too much else happening. Joe Mixon had a very quiet game in this one. Samaje Perine, we saw him. He scored the other touchdown in this offense. Went 9 for 47 today, so 5.2 yard average. I'm not sure if that was the fact that Mixon was banged up or whatever it was, but when we looked at it, it does show that Mixon did outsnap Samaje Perine by a large margin. So just think it was just one of those off days for Mixon. Talk about the New York Jets, 285 through the air for Flacco, no touchdowns. Another thing was Michael Carter led this team in rushes, 11 rushes for 39 yards. And Breece Hall was the one that led this game in receiving. So I'm not too sure what to make of this backfield as far as, passing down. Like, I don't know who's who now. I thought Michael Carter was going to be the third down back, but it looks like Breece Hall is going to be. So, I mean, it's going to be, I think it's going to most likely be, a 2-3 man committee in this backfield, because we also got to see, a 2-man backfield. It's going to continue to be that way. And the one interesting thing for the Jets was the fact that Breece Hall was on the field for the, the important touches. So that's just something, I guess, if you want to look at it. Like, I mean, he played the majority of the third downs in short yardage situations. And I mean, the fact that he caught 6 of his 11 targets for 53 yards. So just something that you could look at. Breece Hall is eventually going to take over this backfield at some point, but that doesn't mean Michael Carter is going to go away. I do think that they're still going to be able to, they're going to run both these guys out there regularly, but I do think we're going to see it where, where it's going to be more Breece Hall, and, basically the passing situations are going to turn to Michael Carter. 2 games in a row now, Tyler Conklin, 8 receptions for 84 yards. He's basically their tight end to own. And also, guy, if you're streaming tight ends and he's out there, you're going to go want to get him. I grabbed him 2 weeks ago, and it's paid off for me. So if you don't get those guys, those tight ends, any of those top 5-6 guys, you're looking for a streaming guy. Conklin could be one of those guys that's going to produce week to week, even when Zach Wilson does come back, with chance of that happening next week. So Garrett Wilson, 6 for 60. He continues to produce on 10 targets. And Elijah Moore kind of had a quiet day. He was targeted 10 times as well, but 4 for 49. With Flacco behind center, this team's just going to throw the ball week to week. I'm not sure you're trusting many of these guys. If I got to put my money down on one guy, you're going to start, it's going to be Garrett Wilson, no matter what. Just keep an eye on that injury that he did have this year. So basically, it's going to be Wilson and Ty Conklin for me. All right, Las Vegas Raiders and the Tennessee Titans. Now, this was another one. Titans finally got back on track, 24-22. David Carr, 26 passes for 303 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's a huge breakout game, which shocked me a little bit, was Mac Hollins for Vegas. He finished the day with 8 receptions for 158 and 1 touchdown. I mean, I'm not going to go run out and go get him in waiver wire. I'm definitely not saying add this guy. It's basically his, best game of his career, and he's never going to be a consistent fantasy starter. So don't run in, go get him. He filled in for basically Hunter Renfrow, who missed this game with a concussion from last week. But I mean, that's the reason why he was on the field the most. You bring Renfrow back, you're not going to really see, you'll never most likely see Hollins on the field anymore. So, then on the Darren Waller, 51 snaps played today. Nice to see that. Devontae Adams was 5 for 36 and 1 touchdown, and continues to just be targeted like a madman in this offense, considering he only had 1 catch last week. He did catch 5 balls for 36 in the score today on 10 targets. So Josh Jacobs came in. We weren't sure if Josh Jacobs was going to play this game. Didn't fly out with the team due to illness. Did fly in on, I believe, Saturday. Did play and put up, almost 100 all-purpose yards. So if Jacobs continues to be the man in this backfield, regardless of what people are saying, he's going to continue to produce as long as this team is firing on both cylinders, passing the ball. I mean, they got weapons to pass the ball, so they can't stack the box anymore against Jacobs. You're going to see Jacobs perform a little bit better. Ryan Tannehill, after giving his fantasy managers a goose egg last week, kind of stepped back up. Ryan, 264, 1 passing touchdown. Interesting stat here was the fact we finally saw the old Derrick Henry back. 20 rushes for 85 yards and another 5 catches for 58 yards. So I said at the beginning of this game, I said the only way that this team is going to get back to where they need to be is when they go back to what works. And what works is the fact that just hand it off to Henry. When Henry's catching the ball out of the backfield and carrying the ball, Tennessee starts to open it up a little bit. And then that's exactly what we saw today. Once Henry started getting going, then you guys saw guys like Robert Woods produce 4 for 85. He hasn't done really anything all year on 9 targets. So it opens up the field for these young guys. Treylon Burks, mind you, was held to only 1 catch for 13 yards after having his big breakout last week. So just one of those games, just not much to take away from this game. One of the biggest things, though, is Darren Waller played under 75% of the offensive snaps this year. Like, considering he only did that only happened once last season, and that was due to injury. I just think that Waller is not 100%. I still think he's basically, nursing some sort of injury that's still lingering. So just keep an eye on that moving forward. And in case he does end up missing some time, Foster Moreau is going to is his backup. And on the other side of the ball, for talking tight ends, if you need to drop somebody, that drop is going to be Austin Hooper. He's done absolutely nothing this year. I was high on him coming into the year. I mean, he played, 11 of 24 snaps today. It was Jeff Swaim's the guy that, is playing significantly a lot more than him, especially on early downs. So just something, I mean, Hooper is basically washed up. No longer. He's a bum. Get rid of him. Jacksonville and the Chargers. We saw, Jacksonville looks legit. And I watched a little bit of this game, and I saw Trevor Lawrence be efficient today. 262, 3 touchdowns. Zay Jones is a guy that you can is definitely out there on the waiver wire. Definitely somebody that you should be eyeing. I mean, we talked about him last weekend after what he did this week. You basically going at him if you need to, and you can flex this guy out every week. He's playing, 58. He played 58 snaps today and led the team in targets, 11 targets, also had a carry. And Trevor Lawrence just seems to love. Well, he's going to give Christian Kirk his. Zay Jones is the number 2 in this offense. So When it comes to the quarterback position, Trevor Lawrence and how he's going to perform week to week, I think you're going to see this. This is a completely different offense without Urban Meyer there. I think they're starting to buy into what the head coach is selling, and we're starting to see Trevor Lawrence be that efficient quarterback that we thought he would be coming out of college. And this backfield seems to be almost like a split backfield as well, but it's James Robinson that's just dominating. Looks good coming off his injury last year, 17 for 100. I think that could be a comeback player of the year for him. He had to score again today. Also got, 3 balls out of the backfield as well. So, Robinson's the guy to own. Etienne is slowly starting to creep up into that flex territory if you need him. And on the Chargers side of the ball, we saw Justin Herbert was active and did play. And I mean, wasn't I don't think up to par with what he could do. Did throw for almost 300 and 1 touchdown. Really concerning to me, though, is the usage of Austin Eckler in this backfield. If we were to look at that, Eckler played 34 snaps. Sony Michel led this team in carries, which is beyond me. 5 carries for 22 yards. Eckler was 4 for 5. I know this is a thing with them playing down all the time, but I mean, you got to get Eckler the ball 20 plus times, get 20 plus touches in Eckler in order to win this game, which I definitely thought was going to happen with the fact of even Keenan Allen still missing time. Josh Palmer led this team 6 for 99 on 9 targets. So you see it continues to be a favorite target of Herbert and kind of a possible starter next year, especially with the fact that, Keenan Allen might not be there. Mike Williams did catch 1 ball for 15, but did score that touchdown. So, I mean, if you're a fantasy manager and had him in your lineup, you're happy because of that touchdown. Eckler was used in the backfield, 8 catches for 48 yards. But like I mentioned, you still got to be rushing that ball. You have to have a rushing game in order to win football games. And I don't know why they just completely went away from it. So Atlanta and Seattle, this game I thought was going to be super boring. But we saw Mariota almost 230 yards, 1 passing touchdown. We saw basically Pitts kind of step up a little bit, 5 for 87 on 8 targets. Those are decent stats from what you want to see out of your tight end. Cordell Patterson just continues to, he is their RB1. I mean, another 17 carries for 141 yards and 1 touchdown today. You're not worrying about Patterson. You're firing him up as your RB1 week to week. He's going to be producing numbers. So when it came down to Drake London in this one, he found the end zone again, 3 for 54 on 6 targets. So he's going to be productive week to week. You're going to be able to fire out Drake London and Pitts. I'm really starting to hope Pitts is slowly starting to get some action. So hopefully he's going to be able to, they're able to get that ball down to the end zone so we can see Pitts get in the end zone for the first time in his career. But this backfield belongs to Patterson and is going to continue that way for the rest of the year unless he gets banged up. Geno Smith on Seattle's side, 325, 2 passing touchdowns. Tyler Lockett, good game, 9 for 76 on 11 targets. DK Metcalf, 5 for 64, 1 touchdown, led this team in targets. So Tyler Lockett and Metcalf continued. They're going to be playable every week. I think most likely not as Metcalf used to be a sit and forget kind of wide receiver 1. He's more of basically a high upside wide receiver 2, with Lockett being a flex play. And this running game is just 14 for 66 yards for Rashad Penny. Ken Walker, we're still kind of waiting for that breakout to happen. Not sure when that's going to be. I thought it'd be maybe this game, but he only had the ball. He only carried the ball 3 times. If I got to look at the snap count for this, for these running backs, it was Rashad Penny dominated in snaps. So, I mean, right now, Penny's running away with this show, and it's kind of probably how it should probably be moving forward. So if you're expecting a Kenneth Walker breakout happening anytime soon, it's most likely not going to be happening. So LA Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals, 20-12, boring game. Not much to really, Stafford, 18 completions for 249, no passing touchdowns. Akers dominated this backfield this time around, 12 for 61, one touchdown. Nice to see him, finally get going again. So all you fantasy owners that do have him, you could kind of, breathe a little sigh of relief. The fact that Akers did step it back up in this one and showed up. And as far as, I don't know what you were going to do with Allen Robinson. I mean, he's not being used at all. He was targeted 5 times today, 2 for 23. I mean, I'm not saying go out and drop him, but he's definitely not startable in this offense. I'm worried about the fact that the only person it seems to own you want to own in this passing game is Cooper Kupp. He just continues to be just a beast. And Allen Robinson, he's playing just as many snaps, but just not doing anything with those snaps. Ben Skowronek, 4 for 66, led this team in yards. Tyler Higbee, again, 4 for 61. Tyler Higbee's another guy. If you're looking for a tight end that you're going to be able to play week to week, Tyler Higbee's going to be that guy. On the Arizona side of the ball, took it a little while to get going, but Kyler Murray, 58 attempts today. That's got to be a record for him. 314 yards. Marquise Brown was the recipient, 17 targets, 14 catches for 140 yards. Broke out huge. Greg Dortch now, 9 for 80 again on 10 targets. He continues to produce at a high level, and he's playing just as many snaps almost as Marquise Brown. And like we talked about earlier, though, too, Rondale Moore being out, what are they going to do with Dortch when Rondale Moore does come back? I think you're still going to see Dortch on the field, especially now the fact that AJ Green's banged up. So Dortch is slowly coming into his own on this team. So I mean, he saw an uptick in targets today after AJ Green did leave this game, and he's playing out of slot. So I mean, the only trustworthy receivers on this team are going to be Dortch and Brown. And you can also throw Zach Ertz in there, 6 for 45, not great, but he was targeted 10 times. So it's all about volume in fantasy football, and he's the guy that you can go and get. Another guy that came in this game banged up was James Conner. Didn't do too much with his opportunities, 13 for 39, and caught 3 balls on 5 targets. So I think James Conner is a buy low if anybody's, tired of him not really producing. I think the fact that you could probably go get him right now, because you got to think about he did come into this week with an ankle injury. So I guarantee that, the Cardinals kind of, limited his usage a little bit, although he did play significantly, but I do think that they did kind of ease him into this game. So knowing the fact that he wasn't 100%. Last couple games we're going to get to here. I'm not even really touching on this game, guys. The Green Bay Packers, Tampa Bay game, 14-12. Rodgers, 255, 2 passing touchdowns. Romeo Doubs, another rookie that finally broke out, 8 for 73 on 1 touchdown, caught all 8 of his targets. And Aaron Jones and, A.J. Dillon continue, splitting backfield work. And, I mean, they each had pretty much identical snaps, 12 for 36 for Jones, 12 for 32 for Dillon. And both of them were, not very productive in the passing game. We notice now with Tom Brady, if he doesn't have the weapons, he's not the same Tom Brady as we're used to. 3 for 270, 1 passing touchdown. That lone touchdown was to Russell Gage, who dominated this team in targets. 13 targets for him, 12 catches for 87 yards and 1 touchdown. Mike Evans will be back next week. Hopefully they could get Godwin back at some point. But if there's the only people I really trust on this offense right now is going to be Leonard Fournette, even though he didn't really do too much with his opportunities today. 12 for 35 and caught another 5 for 35. So 70 all-purpose yards. He's really the only guy that I'm trusting moving forward at Tom Brady. Until he gets all of these weapons back, I'm considering not, sitting him most weeks, and for guys like, say, Jared Goff and guys like that are producing. Now to the Sunday night game, another boring snooze fest, 11-10. Denver Broncos get past the 49ers. On the 49ers side of the ball, Jimmy G made his debut, just threw over 210 yards, one passing touchdown. That passing touchdown was to Brandon Ayuk. So it's a little bit of rapport there. Ayuk was targeted 8 times, along with Deebo Samuel. Samuel 5 for 73. Now, interesting fact here is Jeff Wilson is the guy right now. Until Elijah Mitchell comes back, the only back I'm owning on this 49ers team is going to be Jeff Wilson. I'm not worried about Jordan Mason. He had a little bit of opportunity with Davis Price out, and he didn't do nothing with his opportunities neither. So Kittle's first game back, 4 for 28. Not great. You're going to want to see better numbers out of Kittle moving forward, but did come back after his first game. So just ease him in and see what happens. Now, Denver Broncos, my biggest concern is Russell Wilson. I'm not sure what else to say. I do have him in an 18-team league, and I might have to consider trying to find somebody better off the waiver wire because he's just not producing as well as I thought he would be. No passing touchdowns again this week, over 180 yards passing. Both, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon are the only ones in this backfield. They continue to split work. Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy in this one, but Courtland Sutton 8 for 97, led the team in targets with 10, and we didn't see Jeudy do too much with his. So I'm not too sure what the answer is for this Denver team, but as far as if I'm going to talk about starting players week to week, Russell Wilson's definitely a must sit for me right now until that changes. I'm still going to roll out Javonte Williams, and I think I can still flex out Melvin Gordon on a week-to-week basis, along with Courtland Sutton, rolling out as your wide receiver too. So outside of that, I think I've touched on all of these games from this past Sunday. I hope it was a good episode for you guys. I'll be back again for an episode on Tuesday when I talk about waiver wire ads. I'm going to change that up a little bit too this week, talking a little bit more, fab on how much to use. I might even throw in some drops there, guys, that you should be dropping instead of holding on to, and so on and so forth. So outside of that, appreciate you guys all for listening. Don't forget the Dallas New York Giants tomorrow night. And outside of that, love you all. Thanks for the support. Peace.